The following one-hour training will provide an overview of Mississippi's Peer Support Specialist Program. The training will define peer support and certified peer support specialists in addition to discussing the peer support specialist training requirements. Mississippi history with peer support specialist programs began in 2009 with its first peer support specialist training in May of 2009. There were many challenges with the integration of peer support specialists into the behavioral health system. Consequently, the Department of Mental Health decided to review and enhance the peer support specialist program. From June to August of 2011, the Department of Mental Health reviewed the peer support specialist training curriculum and certification process. Based on a review of the curriculum and dialogue with peer support specialists and programs nationwide, the Department of Mental Health developed the peer support specialist standards and requirements. The Mississippi Board of Mental Health approved the standards in September 2011. Mississippi Department of Medicaid approved peer support services as provided by certified peer support specialists as a reimbursable service, and Mississippi conducted its second peer support specialist training in January of 2012. The peer support specialist program is a significant part of mental health transformation efforts taking place in Mississippi. The Mississippi Department of Mental Health is very excited about the program and continues to support and enhance the peer support specialist training. Mississippi offers a minimum of 2 peer support specialist training a year. The mission of the peer support specialist program is to develop a skilled workforce of individuals receiving services and family members who will support recovery. To provide an added piece to the recovery-oriented continuum, to demonstrate that people diagnosed with a mental illness and/or addiction can and do recover. We have talked a little about the mission of the peer support specialist program. Let's take a minute to define peer support. What is peer support? Peer support may be defined as the help and support that people with lived experience give to one another. It may be social, emotional, or practical support, and most importantly, this support is mutual. Peer support is provided by a certified peer support specialist. Basically, a certified peer support specialist is an individual with personal experience of recovery from mental illness and/or substance use who receives specialized training and supervision to guide and support others who are experiencing similar mental health and/or substance abuse issues toward wellness and recovery. A certified peer support specialist provides non-clinical peer-based evidence that engage, educate, and support the individual to successfully make life challenges necessary to recover from disabling mental illness and/or substance use disorder conditions. A certified peer support specialist can be a family member and/or a person living in recovery with mental illness and/or substance use disorder, and who provides support to others who can benefit from their lived experience. Additionally, a peer support specialist is a biological parent, adopted parent, or a caregiver with legal custody who have had the experience of raising a child or youth diagnosed with an emotional, mental, or behavioral health disorder. Now that you understand what a peer support specialist is, let's go through the steps to become a certified peer support specialist. The first step is the completion of the peer support specialist readiness assessment. This assessment is a list of questions designed to assist you in developing whether you're ready to participate in a certified peer support specialist training. This document is for your use only and should not be submitted with the application. Once you have completed the assessment based on the score, you can decide to either continue the application process or continue this process at a later time. If you decide to continue at a later time, you may contact our office about other opportunities for meaningful individual and family participation. If you have decided to continue the application process, the second step is to complete the peer support specialist application. Individuals may qualify to become certified peer support specialists in Mississippi by meeting the following application criteria. You must be a resident of Mississippi. You must self-identify as a current or former recipient of mental health and/or substance abuse services. You must have demonstrated a minimum of 6 consecutive months out of the last 12 months in self-directed recovery and/or resiliency, or supporting the recovery process of a family member living with mental illness and/or substance abuse. You must be comfortable and willing to self-disclose that I am a family member and/or an individual who has or currently receiving mental health services or substance abuse for the purpose of education, role modeling, and providing hope to others about the reality of recovery and resiliency. You must be currently employed by a mental health service provider. For some, the applicant's employment may occur after completion of the training, or you may be employed prior to the training. The applicant must provide a minimum of documentation of a high school diploma or GED certificate. or be enrolled in a GED program. You must have a serious mental illness and a substance abuse disorder, and the applicant must have in the last 3 years, not necessarily consecutively, have a minimum of 100 to 250 hours of paid or volunteer work or activities in a support advisory role with adults and transition-age youth. Must have 1 year of college or educational experience within the last 3 years, and this can be substituted for work experience. All experience must be gained prior to applying for certification. The applicant must submit 2 reference forms. The references must attest to the individual's ability to perform the role of a certified peer support specialist. A professional reference cannot be a family member. Once your application has been submitted and received by the office, you will receive a letter acknowledging the receipt of the application, and a request for additional information may be necessary. The third step after the completion of the peer support specialist application is meeting with a member of our certification committee. You will receive correspondence after the receipt of your application, providing you with the contact information for a member of the certification committee. The member will contact you and schedule a meeting to discuss your responses to the information gathering form. Typically, the meeting will be via telephone. After completion of the application, applicants will be provided access to an online pre-training courses. These trainings are provided through Reliance Learning. In order to access these training courses, applicants must complete the peer support specialist application and pay the application fee. Important points to remember on the peer support specialist training application is that the applicant should read all directions and application material before beginning the process. Certain application forms must be in an original signature and as indicated on the forms. Copies of the forms cannot be faxed. And make sure you provide all the information requested. Every blank should have a response even if it's not applicable. And once submitted, all application material becomes the property of the Department of Mental Health. Material will not be returned. You should also keep a copy for your personal use. All for fees pertaining to credentialing are non-refundable, and the applicant's or other credentialing fee is submitted in error, it will not be refunded. The application must be signed and notarized. No application is considered complete without the required fees. Scholarships are available. And finally, completion of the training is not a guarantee of employment. After completion of the application and meeting with the members of the certification committee, the applicant will receive a letter of acceptance from the peer support specialist training or a letter of denial. The training is a 4-day training which begins at 8 a.m. and ends at 4 p.m. each day. In order to be successful, you have to complete training in its entirety. The training includes lecture, role-playing, feedback, and group activities. Topics covered include communication, ethics, problem-solving, among others. Participants will learn the core philosophy, attitudes, and skills necessary to work as a successful peer support specialist. Active participation is very important in all sections of the training. If you are excited about the training, if you're excited about enhancing recovery in the lives of others, this training is for you. The Department of Mental Health wishes to express our appreciation for your desire to serve the community. We are invested in your successful completion of this course and your work in completing the test. Thank you for your interest in the peer support specialist training. This 1-hour presentation will highlight Mississippi's behavioral health system and opportunities for meaningful individual and family participation in the behavioral health system. This section of the video will focus on the definition of recovery and Mississippi's 11 components of a person-centered, recovery-oriented system of care. The Department of Mental Health's transformation to a person-centered, recovery-oriented system of care has implications for all services, including adults, children's, substance abuse, and intellectual and developmental disabilities. We will begin with 2 important definitions, the definition of recovery and the definition of a recovery-oriented system of care. Recovery means different things to different people. For some, recovery may mean the pursuit of education, living independently, abstinence, developing personal relationships, not just living in the community but being a part of the community, involvement in social groups and having friends, maintaining and or building natural supports, and resiliency. The Mississippi Department of Mental Health has adopted SAMHSA's definition of recovery. SAMHSA is an acronym for Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Recovery is a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, strive to reach their full potential. Basically, recovery is what the person does to manage his or her illness while in pursuit of his or her own personal goals. A recovery-oriented system of care is what the system does to support the person. It's a coordinated network of community-based services and supports that is person-centered and builds on the strength and resilience of not just the individuals, but the strength and resilience of families, the communities, and to achieve improved health, wellness, and quality of life. As we have discussed, the journey of recovery is individualized. Consequently, the best way of supporting a person's recovery varies from person to person. There is no ideal right services for everyone, and it is not possible to provide step-by-step instructions for how recovery can be supported by the mental health system. Therefore, Mississippi has adopted 11 components of recovery. These components can be used as a guide to how to promote recovery. So how can we promote recovery? What we would like for you to do is to think about your supports and services and look at these supports and services through the lens of recovery. These supports and services should align with the components of recovery. If the supports and services align with the components of recovery, great. If not, this does not necessarily mean that they are not needed, but ask yourself, why are these services and supports in place? Do they support a person in their life in recovery? Ultimately, because recovery is a personal and unique process, everyone develops his or her own definition of recovery. However, certain concepts or factors are common to recovery. These concepts and factors are addressed in the components of recovery. The Department of Mental Health has adopted SAMHSA's 10 components of recovery and added one component, resiliency. Mississippi Department of Mental Health 11 components of recovery serve as a guidepost for recovery-oriented services and support. These brief components are self-directed, individualized and person-centered, empowerment, holistic, non-linear, strength-based, respect, responsibility, hope, peer support, and the final one added is resiliency. I will provide a brief description of the 11 components of recovery. These components are not in any particular order. The first component of recovery is self-directed. While the pathway to recovery may involve one or more periods of time when activities are directed or guided to a substantial degree by others, recovery is fundamentally a self-directed process. The person in recovery is the agent of recovery and has the authority to exercise choices and make decisions based on his or her recovery goals and have an impact on the process. The process of recovery leads individuals toward the highest level of autonomy of which they are capable. The second component of recovery is individualized and person-centered. There are multiple pathways to recovery with no two exactly alike. There are no two pathways alike because the pathways are based on the unique strength and resiliencies of the person, as well as his or her needs, his or her preferences, his or her experiences, including past trauma, and his or her cultural background. The third component is empowerment. People are empowered when they have choices, when they are able to choose from a range of options and to participate in all decisions that affect their lives. In order to make informed decisions, often people have to be educated and supported in so doing. Decision-making should not happen in a vacuum. Decisions are best made when the individual has sufficient information to weigh the possible consequences of various choices. Additionally, to be empowered, individuals must have the ability to join with others to collectively and effectively speak for themselves about their needs, wants, desires, and life aspirations. The fourth component of recovery is holistic. Recovery encompasses an individual's whole life and all aspects of his or her life, including housing, employment, education, mental health, spirituality, social networks, community participation, and or family supports as determined by the person. Families, providers, organizations, systems, communities, and society, they all play a crucial role in creating and maintaining meaningful opportunities for individuals to access these supports. The fifth component of recovery is nonlinear. Recovery is not a linear or a step-by-step process. Nobody expects people to smoothly walk along their path toward recovery without meeting a few obstacles or taking a wrong turn along the way. It's based on a continual growth and learning from your experiences. Recovery begins with an initial state of awareness in which a person recognizes that positive change is possible. The sixth component of recovery is strength-based. Recovery focuses on valuing what is strength and building on these strengths. By building on these strengths, individuals engage in new life roles that include but not limited to being an employee, a student, a friend, a partner, and or a caregiver. The seventh component of recovery is respect. One of the most powerful ways we can foster a respectful relationship is by using a language that values the individual as a worthy and capable human being. A second way is to listen, to truly listen to what people are saying to you. Community system and societal acceptance and appreciation of individuals, including protecting their rights and eliminating discrimination and stigma, are crucial in achieving recovery. Self-acceptance and regaining belief in oneself are particularly vital. Respect ensures that the inclusion and full participation of individuals in all aspects of their lives. The eighth component of recovery is responsibility. Billy Anthony used a metaphor comparing mental health support to that of a person using a crutch. While the person with an injured leg may use a crutch and become somewhat dependent upon it for a time, such support is ultimately temporary. In a psychiatric rehabilitation context, a person in recovery may become reliant on mental health services and support, but these elements should be considered temporary. Moving from dependence to independence requires personal responsibility. People must be committed to the work required to improve their lives. The ninth component of recovery is hope. Recovery provides the essential and motivating message of a better future, that people can and do overcome the barriers and obstacles that confront them. Having hope is crucial in the recovery process. None of us would strive if we believed that it was a futile effort. Hope gives people a positive vision about their future. It is internalized but can be fostered by peers, family, friends, providers, and others. Hope is the catalyst of the recovery process. The 10th component of recovery is peer support. A recovery-oriented system of care provides opportunities for ongoing participation of peers in the planning, evaluation, and implementation of services throughout the full continuum of care. One primary strategy in transforming the system is that it recognizes the power of family members and individuals who have received and are currently receiving services as providers. Emergent evidence strongly supports the need for peer support services as a cost-effective and complementary adjunct to the professional mental health services and supports. Peer support is mutual support, including the sharing of experimental knowledge and skills, and social learning plays an invaluable role in recovery. Peer support can be formal, like certified peer support specialists, but it can also be an informal sort of encouragement and listening to people who participate in services that can be provided to one another. The 11th component of recovery is resiliency. Resiliency implies the ability to manage and rebound from stress, trauma, tragedy, and adversities. Resilience is the ability to recover quickly from disruptive changes, illness, or misfortune without being overwhelmed or acting in dysfunctional ways. Often the challenge is not what is being done, but how it is being done. Working from recovery orientation does not necessarily mean to add on new services or change the names of services and our programs just to incorporate the word recovery. The challenge is to have a willingness to do things differently, to continually evaluate attitudes, policies, practices, and actively work to align their day-to-day activities with recovery values and principles. And think recovery.
Hi, my name is John Q. And what I've learned about recovery is, well, my definition of recovery, I adapted from a 12-step program that I go to, that I've been attending for the last 26 years. And actually it says recovery is an active change of attitudes and ideas. And it's kind of ironic that a lot of the posters that the Department of Mental Health Services uses says think recovery. And the reason I say that is because, like, that's kind of like the way I look at recovery is like everything that has to do with recovery. Like I don't separate anything from recovery. It's like, when I get up in the morning and I brush my teeth, that's all recovery. And, being able to brush my teeth, or being able to eat the right meals, or, going, or like riding down the street in your car, blasting the music and enjoying the sounds of your radio. It all has to do with recovery. When I look at recovery, I look at it, it kind of coincide with even peer support, which, peer support, when I think about peer support, and I can't think about peer support without thinking about recovery. It's just like it doesn't separate for me. Usually it goes hand in hand. Like, when you get together with somebody and you turn around and you try to, normally, like whenever I get together with anybody, like a lot of times I'll look at them and I'll try to let them, get them to look at something in a different way. Because if I can get them to look at something differently, I can get them to see things, to get a different perspective, becoming a little bit more open-minded about how they look at things and not be so stereotyped about a particular thing, and like when I'm dealing like with, the stigma of mental illness, sometimes I think, that people look at us in a certain, like a certain way. They particularly look at us like, and they kind of look at us like we're dangerous, or, or you can't trust them, or, they're gonna do something, out of line, and sometimes I have a hard time getting people that are like me, which is people with mental illness, because they've heard it so much about the stigma that they have a hard time even being around other people. Particularly I live with somebody who has a mental illness diagnosis also, and sometimes it becomes real hard to try to convince him to continue to take his medicine. And that's one of the things that I think about when it comes to peer support, like, trying to convince somebody or trying to get them to see that it's been working for me, and it has worked for me, to take medication properly, to go see therapists, to go to meetings, to have plenty of support, like all of these things have been working, and being a peer support, I try to get them to understand that they can utilize the same things that I have utilized to help them better understand life with their disability, and because I've been successful, I've had like other people that I actually help, by sponsoring them and showing them what I've done to stay clean from drugs and stay, have a life worth living, and being able to learn to be yourself. Because a lot of what has happened is like, we don't get a chance to be ourselves. Everybody's always telling us what we can't do, how we can do it, the way we can do it, and never giving us an opportunity to just be ourselves, to express who we are, to like, with the disability, with the illness, it's almost like, like whenever I like tell somebody that I have a mental illness, it's like they shut down completely. Like they're not going to hear anything else I'm going to say, because they already made up their mind what exactly I am, without listening, without realizing that, yeah, I'm different, I'm different, and just because I'm different doesn't mean that I can't be a part of the society, or be a part of, things, like regular people. Like I know how to pay my rent. I know how to, like I'm driving around in a 2015 Ford Focus. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is after, 15 years of dealing with a mental illness, and I was depressed, and I went through all the depression and got through it, and learned coping skills and learned all these different things. And that's what I believe, like peer support, that's what you offer as a peer support, the things that you've been successful at like combating, like getting, the things that you've dealt with, all I know is that, I've been working with this team that I'm working, at work, and basically they've said that I've changed their mind because they didn't have any faith in peer support. They had a negative look at what a peer support was, and I've been able to change their mind. I don't know what I did. I just kind of was myself. All I know is that when I meet somebody who has the same problem that I have, I want to help them to see that they don't have to continue to continue to not be able to do things just because they have an illness. You can work if you want to work. You can do whatever you put your mind. You can go back to school. You can do whatever you don't have to be crippled by your disability. I've always believed, and I guess I've learned this through 12-step recovery, is that if they cut off my arm, I have to learn to live without my arm. It doesn't mean that I stop living. So today I know that this is all about learning to live with whatever situation or whatever crap the life brings you. I don't know if I could use that word. Can I use that word? Peer support for me is very exciting, and I've been able to learn a lot about myself too. Because I do have an illness. Because I look at other people with the illness, and I don't see defeat. If anything, I see hope. And that's what I've learned from peer support. Like I said, recovery goes hand in hand. You can't do peer support without recovery. And I guess that's why I don't get kind of burnt out, because because I'm looking at it as all recovery. When I look at it as a challenge. I look at people that have the same problem that I have, and that they're deep in their illness, or deep in a manic episode or whatever. I look at them like, if with time we can get them out of it. It's not impossible. It's not impossible to change. I'm definitely an example of that. That I've been able to change. When I first came into recovery, right? One of the things that they used to say was that this was a selfish program, and there's a lot of people who say that it's kind of controversial, because a lot of times people say, no, it's not a selfish program, because you're actually helping other people, but there's a selfish motive. I have a selfish motive. The only reason that I exist, or the only reason that I can do what I'm able to do, even peer support or help other people, is because it's helping me. Because if it doesn't help me, then I'm not going to do it anymore. So my perspective on how I look at recovery today is, and how I look at what I do, is this is how I stay alive. This is how I continue to be alive, and continue to move forward in my life, by allowing all these things that are in my life, helping other people, helping people in recovery, talking to other people, and I don't know, I think that everybody should do it. Everybody should help each other. I mean, because we all need each other. It doesn't make a difference, what I'm saying? We all need each other. But what I do is this helps me to be me. like it makes me more of who I am. I read somewhere where my life is like a roadmap, and we have to revise it from time to time, because like every year you get a new roadmap, because the roads change, or they make another road or whatever, or they make something shorter, and I think how I deal with life is the same thing. Like, there's certain things that become obsolete, they don't work anymore, so I have to change them. So I'm a lot like the roadmap, this way leads to a shorter way of feeling happy, joyous, and free. And that's the one thing that I get out of this, being free. Free to be myself. Free to just do so many things that I was unable to do because I had this, I was trapped. I was trapped, and I don't feel trapped anymore. I feel like I can I can go anywhere and do anything. And I hope that I can, a day at a time, convince other people that that's what happens. You can change. You can change the way you look at them. You can even change your past. People say, oh, you can't change the past because it already happened, but you can change how you look at your past. So you don't have to always, you can change.
Hello, my name is Ellery Crawley, and I'm here to talk to you about what is peer support. Often, we find ourselves in need of someone to talk to that can relate to the circumstances we are experiencing. This is especially true when it comes to diagnosis of mental illness. Many questions are asked by the person diagnosed. Most often, there are 3 questions that need answers. The first question asked is, where did I get this? The second, how do I treat it? And third, how do I live with it? Most illnesses are hereditary in nature and no fault of the person diagnosed. They should realize that they are not alone. Learning how to live with a new diagnosis is the beginning to the road of recovery. When we grow, we recover. That means action on our part. How do we grow? We grow by expanding our knowledge of ourselves and the disorder. What does that mean? We understand what the brain is feeling and doing and why we feel the way we feel. So how do we treat it? We look at things that triggers a reaction to our thought patterns that affect us and those around us. For instance, a trigger such as financial uncertainty may generate a reaction of anxiety, depression, or mania, creating the inability to deal with the situation. How do we live with these changes of emotional reaction? The peer support program helps individuals to recognize their triggers of instability so they can prepare themselves for their reaction. This gives them the ability to control the effect it has on them and their response to others. Yes, recovery is possible, providing you the ability to function normally. Peer support is different from other forms of social support in that the source of support is a peer. A relationship is developed based on common experiences. He or she has been there, done that, and can relate to others who are in the same situation. Trained peer support workers, such as peer support specialists and peer counselors, receive special training and are required to continue their education as new information becomes available for mental disorders. Peer support occurs when people provide knowledge, experience, emotional, social, or practical help to each other. It commonly refers to a program using peers, which could be peer mentoring, listening, or counseling. Join me in recovery and grow 1 minute a day.
My name is Beverly Pettigrew, and I work as a certified peer support specialist for Warren Yazoo Mental Health. I was the 3rd person in the state to go to work as a certified peer support specialist. I helped pioneer this field with the State Department and others. Peer support to me is an important part of a recovery process. Recovery is a journey, and the journey has to be completed with the help of others. No one can do this alone. The advantage of having a peer support person on a treatment team is that they understand where the individual comes from, because most of us have lived through the same thing or things so similar that sometimes we can relate to the other people on the treatment team things that they might not think about. And that's why peer support can be so important. Also, I have some of the clients that I deal with tell me things that they won't tell the therapist and other people because they're either ashamed or they feel like, they won't understand. Peer support's a journey. You take a journey along with these clients that you work with. To me, my job is to help others, to share my life experience, and to use what knowledge that I've learned through the heartaches and the pains that I've endured to help them be able to endure their journey. I've had several, to talk about being committed and other things. And I explained to them, that commitment doesn't mean that you're psychotic and off the deep end of the world. It can be something as simple as you needing an escape because you have nowhere else to go to get away from the traumas and chaos in your life. So sometimes just having someone with a different point of view can help solve a lot of the stigma and other things that people have to endure. Treatment is vital, but treatment alone, medications are not going to cure what's going on. To me, in my journey, medication was important in the beginning, but it's not as important now. But I've learned so much through peer support, and that wasn't called peer support when I did it. But to learn about what's going on within myself, and to learn how to deal with my symptoms, and to learn how to manage them, and learn some coping skills and other things. Once you learn these things, it makes being able to manage your mental illness, it makes it more of a journey. The more you know, the easier it is to manage it.